Hi, I'm Eileen Roche, founder of Designs and Machine Embroidery, and I'm so excited to be here with you today. I'd like to thank you for joining me. Our topic today is thread mistakes, thread storage mistakes, and how to avoid them. We're going to talk about organizing your threads, keeping fiber content into consideration, and kind of storing things for efficiency, right? Because our thread stash is one of our most valuable assets in our sewing room. Without it, well, you really can't embroider. But, I wouldn't be here today without my good friend, Deborah Jones, who is our director of consumables at Dime. And so Deborah is going to join me, and she will also spend a little time with us and take a look at all of your small town charm, your quilt shops, which, we have some beautiful ones to show you. Judy S., you have no sound. What do? I have sound. It sounds like everybody else can hear us. Check your speakers, Judy. Hi, Deborah. How are you?
Hi, Eileen. I'm so excited to see those small town charm designs. I can see yours right behind you there.
I know. I have three up there. Yeah. I have the larger one, and then this is the 5x7 on fabric that will become a quilt block, and then this one is the 5x7, which I just made a little wider, but then I put it into kind of like a koozie, and it's sitting, right on that frame, which I love that. So
I love that too. Yeah. I'm really happy that you made a 5x7 version. That's really appreciated, I know.
Well, so many people, their largest hoop is a 5x7, so let's not leave them out, right?
That's right.
So we are talking today all about thread. And before we get to that, I think it's a good time to show the quilt shops, the small town charms. We have a lot of people piping in from all over the country: Cincinnati, Ohio, Arkansas, Kansas, and my friend Judy Whitaker. I'm hoping she's watching. She had a fabulous quilt shop last week, and I kept calling her Sue Whitaker, but that door was really made by Judy Whitaker, so forgive me for that. All right, let's take a look at our small town charm quilt shops. CB Niche has added, she did a lot with this. So she stitched her street lamp in white thread, but look at all the fabric that she chose. Deborah, it all has a sewing theme.
I love it. I love that sidewalk. I love that fabric. I can't imagine I can imagine all the uses you could use that pattern fabric for. It looks like a drafted pattern. Oh my goodness. And she used the fabric on the awning that looks like measuring tapes. That's adorable.
It is, absolutely. And then she fussy cut her fabric for the door, so that scissors, it's just absolutely centered perfectly. That's so cool.
That is too cute.
Yeah, people are really having fun. Okay, and then we have Patricia Page. Oh, look what she did. So she moved her lamppost to the other side of the quilt shop and added a happy shopper. Hands full, right?
I love that. That just is a great example of how much fun you can have with this basic design when you have embroidery software.
Right. I mean, the difference, and you're going to see some other examples. People, when you have embroidery software and they just add so many different things. Like in this one, Patricia added scissors on the sewing table there, right next to that black machine. That's not part of the design that she downloaded from Dime. So it's super cool. Love that. Okay, and Jackie Burke, oh, how elegant is this quilt shop?
Wow.
121 quilt shop, right?
That wallpaper.
Yes, the scale is perfect. And she added a vine crawling up the exterior on the shop. Oh, I love it.
Fun.
Very attractive. Judy Merbitz, she had a lot of fun. She put her name right across the awning, really colorful fabric for her awning. I mean, that's an inviting quilt shop. Wouldn't you agree?
Maybe that's Judy's secret ambition, is to have Judy's shop.
Yeah, you never know. Our friend Sue Brown at OML Embroidery, she's calling her small town charms Sueville. So she's building a whole town. I love it.
That.
Yeah. And Satan Nisbel, she added a really colorful fabric for the exterior of the quilt shop. I love that. There's butterflies, some pretty flowers. You know, if I pulled up into a parking lot that had paintings like that on outside the quilt shop, you just want to walk right in, right?
And those colors are so appealing.
Yes, did a beautiful job on that. Absolutely. Chris Yost, she added scissors and spools. They're embroidered to the door. She's got a kitty cat waiting to get inside. And look at her colorful awning.
That is really a rainbow, to be sure.
I know. Pretty. Yeah, it's gorgeous. And I love seeing the fabrics that people, that they choose. Christina Alford, she says she needs to get more creative. Well, there's a lot of inspiration for sure. When I look at all of these small town charms, it gives me so many ideas of what to do next, which, you know, well, I can't tell you more because we got a new one coming out next week. Antonio,
you know, Eileen, I think that a lot of people, when they get a pattern like that, maybe in the beginning we're a little timid. Probably these examples we're seeing now are people that have done a lot of this type of thing.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, this is, but you know, you don't have to have a lot of experience, and the small town charm by itself is very pretty. So if you just want to do it without adding anything to it, it's an attractive standalone design for sure. So, but it's also a wonderful opportunity to stretch your digitizing or editing skills, shall we say. You don't even need to be a digitizer, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. But let's take a look at Antonia. So she added bright, big flowers for her awning. Super fun. And again, it's very precise, fussy cutting for that sunflower that's behind the door, right?
Right. And you know, it's interesting to look at those bolts of fabric on everyone. They're all so different.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone is so different. It's really cool. So if you like that doorway, I'm going to say that all year long, I'm sure, a small one of these quilt shops, give us a thumbs up, because those who make them really, you know, enjoy getting feedback as to whether or not, you know, it was a hit. So Cheryl McCombs, she went very traditional. This looks like the kind of quilt shop that is tidy and that you can guarantee, you know, when you walk in, everything's going to be in its place. Don't you feel that way?
Yeah, absolutely.
She selected fabric for her awning that's made out of spools, and then I think she used that same fabric on the door, but maybe added some bridal illusion tulle or something in front of it, so that to kind of mute it. I'm not sure.
And that door design, the way she divided the door there is really cute.
Absolutely. And she used variegated threads on her bolts. So let's see, Sandy Lay wants to know, where do we get the pattern? Well, we'll run that in the ticker. Here it is, right? That's where you go download it. It is free, and it will be there all year. And then someone else wanted to know, Wendy Hansen wanted to know, what's the best way to show a house quilt I made that uses part of our dime door and part of the quilt charm? Well, Wendy, if you just post it on Facebook and, you know, social media with the hashtag dime sew along, I'll find it. I search through the week and look for new additions to that hashtag, and that's how I find it. So I'm excited to see what you've done with it. Okay, Aine McCarthy. She is one of our fabulous educators at Dime. She's a local here in Texas. Look at her door. Oh, you know, she's always over the top, right, Deborah?
Right. She does the very creative and really to perfection always.
Yes. So this is the first awning that I have seen that has trim on it, which is stunning. It's the perfect scale, and she took the time to apply it so that it goes around every scallop and, you know, with the peaks and valleys, shall we say. So that's adorable. She also added 2 real charms from my lace charm collection, which is that quilt block she has kind of hanging as a sign, and the little Scotty dog, which I know is one of her favorites. And so then Carolyn Lindsay asked, is there going to be a new block each month? Yes, there is a new block every month, and it is released on the last Thursday of the month, right here on Facebook Live. The theme for 2021 is small town charm, and it's a nod to small businesses in America and really in Europe also, because it's been a tough year for small businesses, whether they have been struggling financially or maybe blessed with extra business but short staff and vendor problems and all of it. We speak from experience here. So we encourage you to participate and maybe mimic a small business in your own town. Every month will be a little different. Let's check out Marjorie Behan. She named her shop Hoop It Up, which is the name of a book that my Stitched sister and I wrote, but I love that. So look at her awning. She added some scallop stitching to the awning itself. And that polka dot fabric, isn't that fun, Deborah?
Very fun. I mean, all these different fabrics just make you realize how much we have in the stashes just begging to be used on these quilt jobs.
Absolutely. And so in her foreground, in her sidewalk, she's got cats, little kitties. She put one on her sewing table. And if I'm not mistaken, I think she has some vinyl over her window and door to make it really, shiny, like you're looking through glass.
I'm a big fan of the clear vinyl technique, and I love to see it used for glass. And, that's great to show this on this very first door because, people may want to incorporate that into theirs throughout the year, the different shops.
Right. So Ellen Parker Hopper wants to know, how much will they cost? Ellen, they're free. This design from Dime in this fashion is a free download all year long. The whole 12 months will be free. And it's our gift to the embroidery community to encourage you to stitch, to use your machine, to stretch your embroidery skills, learn how to edit designs, how to merge a new little part of a design or pull something out of another design to add to your shop. So it's just it's a skill stretcher, right?
But it's not surprising that she's asking how much they are, because really you're getting a lot of fun for free.
Yeah, absolutely. But Marjorie's, and we're not done talking about her, because look what she did. She has an attic, and you called it, what did you call it, Deborah?
It's a sewing garret.
Yeah, I love
it. Which is a little room up in the attic.
Yeah. And so on her second story, she has stacks of fabric. She has little mice crawling around, which could possibly be from our October door. Not sure, might be. And spiders that are coming down. Oh, super cute. Absolutely adorable. Yes.
That it really is imagination at work.
Mm-hmm. And let's see, Judy Whitaker, she's the one who did the fabulous attic last week. And she says, yes, another attic. And then Dory Hobson wants to know, is the lamppost added on? The lamppost is part of the original design of the 6x10 design. It is not included in the 5x7 design due to size restraints. So if you downloaded the 5x7, you will not find the lamppost. It is in that larger design. Thanks for mentioning that, because I kind of forgot. All right, well, who's up next? Oh, then we have Sabine Stoball. So she has a big cat on her awning, which it tells me she's a cat lover, right?
Absolutely. I would think so.
Yeah, definitely. But look what she did to the inside. She made this into a carry-all. It's a freestanding kind of a tote, right? She appliqued,
so cute.
Yeah, she appliqued the quilt shop onto the front of the tote, and then she, added the awning to the flap that closes over. Oh, I just love it. Very, very creative.
Can you imagine when we start having in-person classes again, when she takes that to her next embroidery class, people will flip.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yep. Okay. So is it time to get to work? It's time to get to work and talk about why we originally came here. Okay. So Deborah, boy, you've been in the embroidery industry quite a while, and you are our director of consumable products. So you know an awful lot about thread. And I'm sure if you're like me, you've made some mistakes along the way, right?
Sure.
Your
Oh,
own sewing room. Yeah. So we kind of thought we would point out some things that are pretty common mistakes, let's call them. And of course, we do, it's always brought to you by a product, right? And today's product is this new 60-pack thread rack and 60-pack of thread. And that's our 40-weight exquisite polyester. So we will talk a little bit about that more as we go on. But it is a great buy today and savings of over $100. So let's go ahead and take a look. One of the most common problems in a sewing room, Deborah, is the wrong rack. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And it looks like you have one there on your slide.
I do. And does it damage the thread? No, it doesn't damage the thread. But when you go to pull a spool off, how many others come with it, right?
Right. And plus, my thread is one of my favorite things to look at, Eileen, and I don't want to look at it like that.
Yes, I agree. It's all kittywampus and different angles and so forth. So it's frustrating to have that. I mean, a thread can really be art, on still a wall with color. Okay, so another bad thing to do is toss it in a container.
Yes, and this is what can easily happen. That little thread cluster there is very typical of what happens when we let thread get jumbled up. And it's damaging actually to the thread to let that happen to it.
So I actually have that spool. So I'm the guilty party of that plastic bag mess of thread. And so Deborah said, well, we should show, do you throw this spool away? No. So Deborah, what would we do?
Well, you just grasp the top of the spool and just pull that bad thread away from it, and you may pull off 5 yards. You may, if it's a big nest, it may be more, but then you get down to the good thread, and it will be just as clean and pristine as you see remaining there. And that is perfectly okay. You don't need to throw that spool away. And when you drop a spool of thread, that is, if it makes that thread cluster like that, it is the right thing to do to pull that, just grasp it and pull it away, and you will maybe have a handful of thread, literally, and you're just going to toss it. It's no good to you anymore, but that spool is. And that action of dropping that thread cone sometimes can bruise the thread a little bit. So it is the right thing to do to toss away that came off the spool in your hand, and then the rest of the spool is perfectly fine to use, and it's not damaged at all.
That's great. I see someone in here says, oh, what happened? No sound. So I just typed in, hey, folks, can you hear us? So just give us a thumbs up if you can hear us. Okay, you can. Good. Thank goodness.
She may have had just a momentary blip in her.
That's right.
Yeah. Eileen, you can see that the beautiful thread rack in your background of your display. And that really, to me, is such eye candy.
It is, yeah. At home, in my studio at home, I have 6 of these racks. This one, 6. And they're just all color, sorted by color. It's a rainbow. It's just a whole wall of color. I love it. It's beautiful.
Makes you smile.
Yeah. Okay. So another mistake that people commonly do is sunlight. So
yes,
yeah.
No,
well, this is just a small storage container that does keep things tidy, but storing it on a windowsill is no good. Or setting it next to a machine table that's in front of a window is not a good policy either, right, Deborah?
That's right. And it's not just, we all know sunlight can be damaging, and so can heat and cold. And even though polyester threads today are much less subject to that kind of damage, you may have a mix of fiber types in your thread library. You may have some cotton, some rayon, some metallics, some silks. You may have a variety. So we want to always be mindful that those environmental factors, dust, sunlight, heat, cold. So just like you wouldn't put it in front of a window, try to avoid putting it directly under an air conditioning or heating vent as well that's blowing that hot or cold right onto your thread.
Right. And it's interesting that you say that, because Linda Burke asked, how do you keep them from getting dusty? And so, Deborah, earlier we were discussing that some people put a cover over it.
Sure. And, it's so easy to do. Look, if you have your threads either on a freestanding rack or hung on the wall, it's literally just a sheet of fabric that comes down over the top. It's so easy to lift it or to pull it down. And if you are concerned about the environmental factors in your space, then that's an easy solution.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then Arnell Burrows, she wanted to know, if you cut off that bad thread that we showed earlier, how do you keep it from unspooling? So in a moment, we're going to talk to you about how to tidy up those threads. But basically, it's all about how you close that spool, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Another inefficient way to store it is to not take the time to color sort it on the rack, right?
Well, it's really inefficient when you're trying to find a color to have it all jumbled up in terms of the color ways like that on the shelf. It really is prettier and more efficient when you're looking for just that right shade to have it in color families across your rack, right, Eileen?
Absolutely. Yeah. And some people, like Dinah is saying, that she likes to store it in plastic boxes that protect from dust and dirt away from windows. And I have some thread that I keep that way. Here in the office, we keep some that way also. But frankly, at home, I love my wall of thread, and I use it, so it doesn't really get that dusty. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's see. When it's sorted, it is really a rainbow. It's just so pretty, right?
Right. And it's just so easy not only to see that color you want to use in a particular design, but it also helps you identify what colors you may need to add to your collection or to your rainbow.
Great. Okay, so let's see. Now, controlling your stash is you want to have a rack that has the proper spacing between the pins. And that's really, important. Lots of racks that are out there, the pins are too close together, and you get that, where the base of the spool is overlapping the spool next to it. That's frustrating.
Right. And Eileen, before I had my great thread rack, I had ordered one on Amazon, and oh my goodness, this end piece, that rail that it sits on, was too short, and the end pin is completely useless. So there is a lot of thought that went into this thread rack that you're showing us here.
Yes, I agree. We did spend a lot of time making sure that the wood was sturdy enough and the pin was long enough and the spacing was good. So lots of people are talking about using plastic boxes for storage. And because, like 80 Washington says, sometimes space is prohibited for wall racks and clear containers are helpful. Oh, and I agree. They most certainly can be. But if you're like me, now you have a tower of plastic bins. But someone else also asked, does a lack of airflow deteriorate thread?
Well, I don't know about a lack of airflow, but I certainly believe that, as I said, too much air, hot or cold, blowing on your thread can be detrimental. But, it's not, as I mentioned, I like to mention it. If your room, I like for my machines and my thread to be in an environment where I'm comfortable, not too humid, not too dry, not too hot, not too cold. If you're comfortable in that space, so is your thread.
Yes, absolutely. And then Retha wanted to know, can the rack be hung easily on pegboards? Absolutely. You just need, like right here, this is not pegboard, it's slat wall, but I just have two hooks that snap into the slat wall, just like you would on grid wall. And then my rack is just, sitting right on top of it. And then let's see what else. Okay, so let's move on to labeling your thread. Now, this is a luxury, I think. Don't you, Deborah?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I
So,
also even like thread names. I mean, this may be just a quirk of mine, but
yeah.
I look at that color name there, croissant. Oh
Mhm.
my, that
Which
is
is right
yummy to
next
me.
to, and it's right next to fawn, which is another
Yeah,
for me.
I think that having those thread color names adds a whole other element of pleasure to the thread.
Thread is so colorful. I mean, but when you look at lipstick or makeup, like foundation and so forth, they have beautiful, inviting, luscious names, and so does our thread. So
Right.
why not get to know your thread by its name and its number, right? I mean, we work with the same brand here all the time. So we do have a kind of intimate relationship with cotton candy or desert rose, something, I can look in a fabric store and see a shade of pink and know that that's the exact match to desert rose. And as grow your thread stash, you will have that kind of same relationship with your thread. It's your paint that you use to create your art. So we have a special right now that when you buy this thread rack and the wooden rack and also the thread itself, you will receive these tiny little labels. Look how tiny they are. I mean, they're perfect to fit on that thread rack. They have the name, a color chip, and the number. So it tells you exactly, how they go. And they're also in order. So row 1 at the top, you go from left to right, and this is all of those colors. And then row 2, left to right, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we've done that for you. You could, because these are so tiny, we had to buy these labels in large quantity, or we would have supplied the PDF for you to print on, like, common Avery labels. But actually, we learned that because they're so tiny, you have to buy them in quantities of 100. We didn't think you'd want to do that. So anyway, isn't that nice? That's our gift to you with this purchase this week. So we love that. It's really fun.
And Eileen, what a wonderful way to reorder. If you are going to the your dealer, or if you're ordering your thread another way, take a picture of those missing threads or make a list. I mean, that makes it so easy to replenish those favorite colors.
Absolutely, because if you don't know the number and you're searching for your favorite blue and you don't see it on that wall and there's no label there, you don't know which blue you're really missing in order to replace it. So that's really quite handy. Okay, so let's see. But you can also change the wood rack to fit your decor, right?
Right. And you talk about a rainbow of thread colors. There's a rainbow of this spray paint at your local hardware store, and you can really get any color you can get. Pastels, you can get brights like these, and really they're so easy to use that it just takes a few minutes to customize your rack to fit your space.
Yeah. So you talked somebody into doing that for you recently.
I did. This is my husband, Howard, and he's fixing to paint me. And so we went outside because we wanted good ventilation where we were painting. And it only takes about 20 minutes for this paint to dry to the touch. So you're going to use really light strokes and just go over the surface of the rails and the pins, and it really gives you a beautiful finished colored rack in just a few minutes. And this was done in a very light wind. You don't want it too windy when you're painting. And as I say, you see those light strokes that he's using keeps you from having any drips or runs, and it's so easy. You can see we painted an aqua one before that one, and really it maybe takes 10 minutes to do the painting and 20 minutes to let it dry and to the touch, and in just an hour or two after that you can load it up with thread. So it really, to me, makes them have a lot of character.
Absolutely. We've had a couple comments that I want to address. Let's see. My one friend said, Judy, yes, she said, I store my thread in boxes because she was told not to store them on a wall, but she found that she doesn't use them because she has to open the drawers to find all the colors. I have a graphic memory, and maybe you do too, Judy. If I see it, I know where it is. So I like having, my thread visible. It's easier to find. And then Linda Burke said, that's cool, but I have Floriani thread and you have to make your own labels. Well, we also have a download conversion chart that will give you all of the conversion numbers to switch from Floriani to Exquisite so that you can have this really neat system of storing and labeling your thread. And there you go. There's our tagline at the bottom where you can download that. And it it converts from Floriani to Exquisite, Isocord, Robison Anton, Madeira, and then it has full color chips of all of the Exquisite to help you, visualize the thread. And then there's also an article in here on choosing thread and working with it and so forth. So yeah. Anyway, we got you covered on that. And then someone wanted to know, Retha, can you just buy the rack? Yes, you most certainly can buy the rack, but you're going to need that thread, I'm telling you. Okay. All right. So what are we going to next? So we're going to match our decor, and then we want to head over and take a look at how to keep those thread tails under control. Right, Deborah?
Right, because that really is how thread does start out getting in that state that you showed us a few minutes ago, Eileen.
Right. And Deborah, I'll bet that bag of thread came home from an event that, one of our educators was at. And as they're cleaning up a big room of machines and workspaces, often spools just get thrown into a bag. But each spool of the Exquisite line has an easy snap spool. So you'll notice I just pulled this bottom base. I just lift it away from the spool core, and then I take that tail and I just slide it right into that snap base and close it, and now it's secure. And most likely it will not become that mess that you saw previously. Now, sometimes you might drop a spool on the floor, of any brand, and this snap spool could possibly break off. And if that is an occurrence that happens to you, you don't have to throw that spool away. You can wrap the thread to tie it off. So Deborah, why don't you talk us through this, because you're the one who taught me. So
okay, well, you just, like Eileen's doing there, you're just going to pull a long loop of thread out to the side, and you're going to twist your wrist about 3 times and place that down over the top of the spool and pull it snug, and there you have it. It is tied off very similar to how they do it at the factory. So, they ship it and it doesn't come undone in the shipping. So it's not going to come untied on your thread rack either. And that is a great skill to know. It comes in handy because sooner or later, chances are that one of your thread bases will come off. And so this is how you can store that thread without damaging it. What many people do is they might put a rubber band around that spool, or they might put some tape on it. No, don't do that. That leaves a residue. Either one of those solutions leaves a residue on your thread that is, guess what, going to end up in your thread path. And that is really not desirable. It gunks up your thread path. So we want to tie our thread off. And of course, if you like looking at your thread on the rack, you don't want to see those hanging tails by not storing it properly. So, go ahead and learn that skill of tying it off. You can replay this video on Facebook and practice, and you'll have it in a snap. It's really easy.
Great. So someone asked, how tall is the pin on the thread rack? And that's 2 inches tall, which is the correct height for a mini king spool. So that works for these spools, and that rack was designed specifically for that. And, Deborah, when I go to the machine, I actually, I go to my thread wall and I pull off the thread that I'm going to use and I put it in a small plastic tray like this and place that at the machine. And
smart.
Yeah, but I put them in the order, hopefully, maybe not. But that way it helps me stay tidy at home so that I don't have this sea of growing spools that surround my embroidery.
Right. And it reminds you, Eileen, too, to carry that same tray back and put them up when you're finished, because they're easy to carry that way, not as likely to drop them. And it also just keeps them contained so that individual thread spool doesn't walk off the edge of your machine table.
Right. Now, we have an interesting comment here, Deborah. Marie Josie says, I heard if you see your thread is getting dry, you can spray water and put it in the fridge for a moment.
I have always heard this for years, and it's certainly something that people do say. I personally have not subscribed to that theory, I'm going to call it, or that practice, because in my experience, both the refrigerator and the freezer have more of a drying action than a moisturizing action. But regardless of that, there are products that can restore your thread better than water, Sewer's Aid and products like that. You just have to be careful that, many of our machines have tension rollers that are sensitive to silicone. So you don't want to necessarily just spray your thread with silicone and let it go through all those tension rollers, because that is not necessarily a good thing for your machine. But sometimes if you're having trouble, there are ways to get silicone to your thread after it's gone through the tension roller. So, but generally speaking, polyester thread is not going to get that out of condition. Back in the days when we had more natural fibers that were the predominant thread types, we had those issues, and we also had more thread breaks, right, Eileen?
Absolutely. We most certainly did. But, I would be concerned about spraying a spool with water because, you're going to spray, right? And it'll most certainly wet the outside surface, but then that moisture will also go into the thread. And I would worry about mold growing.
I would too. You're absolutely right. I agree 100%. And not only that, same thing goes, for spraying your thread with anything. I think it's just a matter that if you're using a high quality polyester thread, it's going to be very stable. Would you agree, Eileen?
Absolutely. I mean, geez, the life of thread is long, really long. Let's see. And then Wendy wanted to know, do the spools have the name or number on them so you know where to put them back? They actually have both and a color chip. So let's go over and take a closer look at that. I'll bring it up closer to the camera so you can see, this way is how you can read. So like here we have 510 natural, well, that's not a good one, but Shy Green 1619, Aaron Green 1183. So it has a color chip and the number and the name. So that's how you will get to intimately know your thread, because you will have all those facts. And,
well, I think she might also be thinking about the label on the thread spool itself. And of course it does have the number.
It has the number. That's correct. It does not have the name, but it has the number. That's correct. Let's see. Okay. What about metallic thread? Well, our metallic thread, you don't have to worry about it at all. That Kingstar metallic thread is the most dependable thread in the business. Right, Deborah?
Right. The thing with metallic thread is that there are so many different qualities out there, and we don't use and recommend anything but Kingstar, because it runs just like your regular thread, and you can use your regular sewing needle or embroidery needle with it. So, that thread is going to be very, very stable, stored in any environment that you're comfortable in.
Absolutely. Okay, well, I think we have hit all of our bases. Deborah, you know what we're doing next week?
What's that?
Jewelry.
Oh, wow.
But
Wow.
okay.
I am always amazed, Eileen, when I see the jewelry collections that you've designed and how classy they are. I mean, you're a classy chick, okay, but I'm just saying the jewelry collections look so expensive. They look so stylish. And when we do them in that King Star metallic thread, they look like real jewelry. It's really fantastic.
Yeah, so that's going to be a lot of fun. But also next Thursday is when we reveal the next small town charm. So you can guess and you can type in your guesses if you want. I won't tell you. I won't spill the beans till next Thursday. But Risa Ranke, she says, can I use my exquisite thread for all of my sewing and not just machine embroidery? Okay, well, that's a confession. I already do. Me too. Me too. I mean, that's what's handy. It's right there and it comes in every color, right, Deborah?
And it's strong, it's a sturdy thread. And even though as lightweight as it has got a great tensile strength, we call it. And so it's certainly suitable for quilting, sewing, and embroidery. So why not?
Right. Okay, and then Sharon Dayton wanted to get the link for the conversion color chart where they can download that. All right, there you go. So let's see. Sharon Crean, your best bet is to buy King Star at your local dealer. So call your dealer and ask them for King Star. If they don't have it, tell them to call us because we're happy to sell it to them and make sure.
And many more dealers are adding it because it's starting to be so requested based on the way it stitches.
Yeah. Well, we got some fun guesses here. Our good friend and lead educator, Ashley Jones, says, my guess is a jewelry store for the next small town charm shop. And someone else said a candy shop. That's fun. Okay. I'm taking notes. Believe me. Card shop. Okay. Sharon Crean, her dealer only carries Isacord. That's so limited. Tell them to call us.
And Eileen, I have a feeling that so many of these people have gotten used to creating your new your door or your quilt shop or your small town charm, that once you release that next week, some of these audience members are literally racing to get started on theirs.
Yeah, and good reason, because our friend Sue, well, first I just want to give a shout out to, look who's in the house, Reen Wilcoxon. She says a bakery. Isn't that fun? Hi, Reen. How are you? Nice to have you here. And a happy new year to you, Reen. Oh my! Now I lost my track and my thought track.
We were talking about people were going to race to make the new.
Right. Thank you. Oh, well, I have to give, wow, there's a lot of, A. McCarthy wants a carousel. Judy Whitaker wants a coffee shop with donuts. Bring the donuts, right? Why not? And ice cream and really great ideas. But, our friends at OML Embroidery on Saturday, 2 days after we revealed the new Small Town Charm shop, they host a sew-along. So when you say people are racing to get it done, many of them are gathering their supplies and so forth, and then they watch Sue Brown do the sew-along. So, that's a fun thing if people want to participate in that. Yeah, well, we have great suggestions here for small town charm shops. We could do this for 3 years, I think, and, come up with a new one every month, right?
Absolutely. And, it was amazing the variety that we saw through 2020 with the doors. And really, to me, the small town charm has even more possibilities.
Absolutely. And I like that people can customize it and make it like their own town, their own small town that they live in, maybe where they grew up,
right.
That, pulls on our heartstrings. Right, Deborah?
Right. I think it's a wonderful homage to small towns and small town shops. And I have a feeling some of them will have the names of the local stores in their towns.
Absolutely. Well, Deborah, thank you so much for joining me today. It's always a delight to have you here.
Well, thank you. And it's always fun to talk about my favorite subject, embroidery supplies, especially threads. So it's great to join you. Thanks for having me, Eileen.
You bet. Bye for now.
Bye.